Programming is sponsored by Sweet Bay. Sweet Bay is a bayfront village in Panama City designed to inspire natural and relaxed living with a dash of southern charm. The Sweet Bay community features parks, walking trails to the water, a future town center, and much more. It's got all the makings of a friendly neighborhood with everything you need, just a short walk away. For more information about the Sweet Bay community, call 844-35-SWEET or go online to sweetbayfl.com.
This is Coach's Corner.
Welcome, Commodore fans, to Coach's Corner, a production of Gulf Coast State College and the digital media program here. Today, Coach Scovell and I are going to talk about the game last week and what's coming up this week. We're well into this panel conference play. Lady Commodores 18-2 overall, 6-1 in the panel conference, ranked number 1 in the state coaches poll, ranked number 2 in the NJCA national poll. So, and we talked a little bit about this at the post-game interview last time. At this stage, at the beginning of the season, you know, did we think we'd be 6-1 now or not? And the Lady Commodores have played well through these first 7 games.
Hey, you know, right, we've played well enough to get 6 victories, and, you know, we've got one more game of the first round, and, you know, whether we win or whether we lose, we'll still be tied for first going into the last round. But there's just so much basketball to play. It would be so easy to just say we could go 0-5 the rest of the way, and sounds kind of crazy after you've only lost 1 in the first 7 to say you could possibly lose 5 in a row. But that's just how much parity there is on the women's side, and, you know, we're going to do our best on Wednesday night to go out there and get a victory.
So it'll be a tough one. So, but we played Pensacola State. In that game, we won 85-66. Yeah. But it was more of a battle than that throughout that game. You know, the score you'd look at it and go, but it was a battle at Pensacola to win that game.
Absolutely. You know, if you look at any game throughout the Panhandle, it's usually a game of runs. You know, somebody will have a 10-point lead, and the next thing you know, the other team in 3 minutes' time is within 2 or went up 1. And I've watched it all season long, and you just got to hope that you have more runs than the other team, or you get bigger runs when you have one, so that at the end of the game, when you look up at that scoreboard, you got more points than the other team. But definitely, it's just been amazing at the ability of teams to make these runs.
What makes us runs, and if we look at scoring by the quarter, 21-17 Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. And then a nice second quarter, 29-15. Mm-hmm. And then come back in the third, it was 21-17. And then in the fourth quarter, Pensacola 17-14. At that stage, you're just trying not to get anybody hurt and get done and move on. But I guess the big talk, us 2 gave. Back-to-back big games, double-double, had 16 points, 12 rebounds.
Yeah, that's, you know, it's just fun to watch her kind of come back into her game. Nobody... You know, there's been some criticism, she's not as good as she was touted, you know, coming from France, and she was, you know, a champion of the, you know, the 3-on-3, the world champions and the MVP of the tournament, and she was just having a hard time showing that, and had come off of an injury, a serious injury. And so, you know, I'm proud for her and proud of her that she has fought tremendously to play and to get over the mental aspect of playing after you've come off of a 5-month. She went 5 months and couldn't even shoot a basketball, and then the next thing you know, she's right back into playing, and didn't look very good shooting it. So these last 2 games, I just pray that we're on this path, that there's more to come, because she has played great the last 2 games. And
if we look at that 4-9 from the 3-point line.
Absolutely.
You know, when she first started shooting from the 3-point line, Herman and I looked at each other like, but she can score from behind.
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of why we signed her, because we always love to have that person in the trail that can always shoot. We've had great ones over the course of our career, and we thought she was going to be one of the great ones, and I think she's going to be. You know, we can't say, 2 games, she's a great one, but she's been great for the last 2 games, and we see that. I really believe she works really hard, and I think there's more of that to come. We just got to hope that she can do it in the next 5 games.
So, and she keeps doing it. And the nice thing about this, you don't want to peak as a team. You want to keep getting better. And Lady Commodores, every game, are getting better from top to bottom on
well, we've had some games where all the pieces have kind of come together, and people are kind of playing their roles. We do have a better understanding. The question is has it been too little too late? We're still in the mix of things right now, but you have to progress. Certain things have to happen by certain times we have a little bit of it happening, and we've just, some of the games, when we lost at Chipola, we missed 15 free throws. Well, we go over to Tallahassee, and they miss 15 free throws. So I think there's some things that have to get better, and then you just don't know what's going to happen, and crazy stuff happens, and then all of a sudden, like Jalea got hurt, and we didn't have her for 3 games before the last Chipola game, and now we're faced this Wednesday night with a possible jumbled lineup. So, we're just going to go out there, do the best we can, and see if we can come away with a victory.
And if we look at that game, Bennett with 23, she's putting up 20-plus a game almost every
She
night.
has really come on. As a matter of fact, she's leading the conference and the region in scoring, and she has really carried us, and she has played like the All-American, that the preseason All-American that she was projected to be. And when a player scores more in conference play, especially in the Panhandle, than they did in pre-conference, they've really stepped up their game, and she's doing that right now, and we're going to need for her to continue to do that.
And so she does that. Dunlap with 12 points, Jeter with 13, Alexis Dye, 14 points. She's getting better and better every game.
She did early. The first half she was great. The second half we had to kind of go to a different look because we didn't get the same production in the second half. So if we can get Alexis to be a little more consistent, she's a tremendous athlete. We had high hopes for her, and hopefully she can continue to build on that success that she had in the first half at Pensacola the other night.
So now, Wednesday night, Chipola comes to town. The only blemish in the Panhandle Conference for the Lady Commodores. And Chipola, it's just, their record doesn't indicate how good they really are.
Oh, absolutely not. Right. They could just go sweep the last 5 games that they have. And they just pose problems for us, and things that they do well, we don't. So the matchup is tough. You can look at their record and our records, that doesn't make any sense. But when you look at their abilities versus our weaknesses, you see why it happens. And hopefully we're going to overcome some of those weaknesses Wednesday night, and hopefully we can play a little bit better against what they do to us.
And you talk about matchups, and some folks may or may not understand what matchups is. That's why the schedule, their records can look like they do, but a team matches up better.
Yeah.
The men that time, Northwest Florida won the national championship, had 2 losses to the Gulf Coast men.
Right.
We just matched up well against them. And in this case, now if we go back and look at the first game, you already talked about the Lady Commodores from the free throw line were 17 of 32 for 53%. If we hit anywhere near what we're shooting now, we win that game.
Right.
And free throws in the last games, some have been in the 80s, so Lady Commodore shooting much better from the free throw line.
Yeah, that's something. It was kind of a crazy night. We usually, like you say, we're shooting probably one of our best teams ever as far as free throw percentage, but that particular night was one of our worst teams. And so hopefully we'll fix that for Wednesday night. And we have to fix a lot of other things. We're going to have probably a new lineup, and we're just going to have to figure out the pieces. And that's why we play the games, and that's what makes it challenging. That's what makes it fun, and makes you kind of lose sleep and get sick. And hopefully I'll be a little bit better. I've been really sick for the last month, but feeling better. So hopefully Wednesday night I can be a little bit more on my game too, because I certainly wasn't very good over there as a coach.
And I've looked over on your bench at a few games. You have been sick. I thought, I got to watch Coach. It
just happens every year at this time. It's stress and emotions and just staying busy, and so I got to figure out that piece to take a little better care of myself. But hopefully Wednesday night I'll feel a lot better than I did the last few games.
So, and if we look back to that Chipola loss we had, Bennett with 32 that night.
Yeah.
Bennett tried everything in her power to carry the team.
She absolutely did, and and that was kind of a breakout moment for us too, defensively, because I think she had 11 rebounds or 13 rebounds in that game. Didn't score well, but that was kind of the game that got her going in the right direction and gaining some confidence of not being afraid to play physical, with the shoulder injury. And but Shayla has just stepped up every time. Whatever the duty calls, she steps up to the plate.
And then we got 14 out of Jeter, everybody else in single digits. Yeah. But, one of the things the Lady Indians do so well is their defense. They just hard-nosed, in your grill defensive players. But the Lady Commodores started adjusting to that at the end of that game and started getting used to that pressure.
Yeah, we made a run and then missed an easy layup that kind of it kind of broke us when we missed it, and we could have gotten within 2 at that point with still plenty of time and possessions to make the final run. And then when we missed that, and then we went backwards, and then we couldn't recover from that. So we made a nice run. Again, a game of runs. We made a nice run, but not nice enough, not good enough. And hopefully this time we'll make more runs than they do.
And we'll back up and look now. And then after Wednesday night, we have another tough game Saturday night against Tallahassee Community College, and we know they like to pride themselves on the defensive side of the ball also.
Oh, absolutely. They do a good job of pressing and taking you out of your offensive rhythm, and there'll be more of that to come because they're kind of in a position where they got to get some wins to stay in this mix. And I know as they move into the last round, they're gonna turn their game up a notch too. So I'm fully expecting Tallahassee to bring their A game on Saturday night.
And Lady Commodores have defeated them twice, 2 of the 3 times already,
yeah.
which is a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely. To go on the road and get Tallahassee on the road at home, I thought was huge. And they're tough, and like we say, they're going to come at us. They're going to give their A game. To beat somebody 3 times is going to be awfully tough. And I think as we move down this stretch, you always want to be in control of your own destiny. But I think as we move down the stretch, we're going to start wishing for other people to help us to try to get one of those top 2 spots.
And when you talk about that, if we look at Panhandle Conference standing right now, Gulf Coast is 6-1, Northwest Florida is 6-2,
Yeah. Tallahassee
3-4, Chipola 2-5, and Pensacola State 1-6. Now, Northwest will sit out Wednesday night
Yeah.
because they played 8 games, and
Yep.
you're right. It would be nice for somebody to get Northwest to create a little separation there.
Yeah, or to continue to get Tallahassee to create even more separation where you're just guaranteed one of the top 2
Sure.
spots. So, at this point, you still don't know what you wish for except that you're trying to get one of the top 2 spots. Right. And, whether it's first or second, you're just trying to get to Ocala. So right now, I'm kind of in that thinking that we're going to have some help from some other people, and then we've got to try to figure out how to get a couple of wins.
And if we can get a couple of wins, that would help. And like you said, only 2 teams move on, which
Right.
Normally you would take 3. So a very good team from the Panhandle Conference will be home this year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's just a tough piece of it, especially when you go and look at some of the other conferences. There'll be teams there with a losing record playing in the state tournament.
Yeah.
But that's.
That's the way it is, and we're in the Panhandle. And like you say, there's going to be one team staying home. There's going to be 3 good Panhandle teams staying home. There's not one team in the Panhandle that, we've all been ranked in the national poll, and now we're just beating up on each other. Right. We could go in other conferences and other states and other regions and be at the top of that region. Right. So, it is what it is, and hopefully we're just going to fight this thing to the bitter end and see what we can do.
And the nice thing about playing in the Panhandle Conference, tough place to play, but it prepares you for the state and national tournament. If you can win the Panhandle Conference, you're pretty well prepared for the state tournament and then also for that national tournament. Yeah,
you're definitely prepared. And then the bigger picture, really the bigger picture and the biggest picture is these kids playing in the Panhandle Conference. They're getting ready to move on, and they're all trying to get 4-year scholarships. So being able to compete against that on a night-to-night basis is also preparing them to move on and be impact players at whatever universities they sign with.
And if we quickly look at the state coaches poll, Gulf Coast 1, Northwest Florida State 2, Tallahassee 3, Pensacola 5, and Chipola 7.
Right.
And then if we run down the national poll, Gulf Coast 2, Northwest 4th, Tallahassee 7th, Pensacola 16.
Yeah.
Chipola fell out, but we're beating each other.
Right.
Because all 12 Panhandle Conference games are against a nationally ranked team.
Absolutely.
So with all that being said, Coach, we look forward to Wednesday night and Saturday night. Come watch the Lady Commodores in the Billy Harrison Fieldhouse and, be that 6th player for them. And it'll be 2 big games. So I'll be right back, Commodore fans, with Coach Jay Powell and talk about how the men did.
Programming is sponsored by Sweet Bay. Sweet Bay is a bayfront village in Panama City designed to inspire natural and relaxed living with a dash of southern charm. The Sweet Bay community features parks, walking trails to the water, a future town center, and much more. It's got all the makings of a friendly neighborhood with everything you need, just a short walk away. For more information about the Sweet Bay community, call 844-35-SWEET or go online to sweetbayfl.com.
Welcome back, Commodore fans. Coach Jay Powell and I are going to talk about how the Commodores did in their only game last week and 2 big games coming up this week. Commodores 15-9 overall, 1-6 in the panel conference, and still receiving votes in the state coaches poll. So if we look at that, we only had one game last week, Coach, but it was unique. You only had 6 players and came up short 62-53, but I think those 6 players played their hearts out for you at Pensacola.
I agree with you 100%, Coach. They were focused. They were dialed in. As you alluded to, we had 6 men travel, and it's kind of funny. After the game, I get a text from local media asking, did several guys get into trouble, or something? No, it wasn't trouble. You think, man, do I need to get the note from the doctor saying they tested positive for the flu or something? But we had 4 men out, and Philippe is, just for layman's terms, we'll say redshirting this year. So we were down to 6, and they gave us everything they had. They played hard and played well, and we got down 7 or 8 a couple of times. We fought right back. With 3 minutes, 31 seconds to go, Will Robinson made back-to-back free throws to put us up by 1. And then, and I'm going to bring these numbers up. They're kind of negative numbers, but they finished on a 9-0 run for the game. And at the end of the game, Will had 6 turnovers and Ty had Will had 8 turnovers and Ty had 6. And I know that is because they just had to keep going and going. They both played all 40 minutes. And so they just, a couple of turnovers late there that normally they don't make. And I do that. I guess I'm making an excuse for them, but I don't care. They played as hard as they could for us. And we came up a little short on the road in a conference game. But also we had Quadre Smith played well. Will obviously played pretty well for us, but Ty and Miles did a good job. Ben Eke, played okay, but gave us a whole bunch of minutes without hurting us. And then Oscar O'Keefe gave us several minutes as well, and he usually plays almost none. And for him to have to play substantial minutes in that game was very good. So we battled, we competed. The men gave their all for Gulf Coast that day, and that's our expectation, and that's what we tried to demand. And so, like you said, there was really no a loss is never good, but there's really no shame in the effort and the performance that the guys gave Wednesday.
So, and if we look at scoring, Will Robertson with 21, Quadre Smith with 15. You had no substitutes for your guards, and you had one big you could move in and out, and one fouled out. Ben fouled out at the end of the game, and so you had to play 5 men. And Herman and I were prepared to go in if we needed to. So, but they played well and just kept battling. At the end of the first half, it was 31-28, and like you said, deep in the second half, y'all came back and was right there. And those 2 guards, or your guards had to play 40 minutes of basketball.
Yeah, Ty, Miles, and Will, all 3 played all 40 minutes and defended pretty well without fouling. And so they did a good job, and I was proud of them for that. Attitudes were good. And so I was just I was impressed. It showed for all 6 of those men, it showed just they have some substance inside of them that's going to help them. It'll help us this season, but it's going to help them in life because it showed, hey, we've got some adversity in our face. We're acknowledging the adversity. It's less than an ideal situation that's before us, and we're going to give it our best shot through adversity. And that's one of the great life lessons that sports provides.
So, and if we look at, and we talk about Pensacola, will everybody say, well, that's Pensacola. But Pensacola, Saturday night, went to Chipola and defeated Chipola 71-61, scored 48 points in the second half to come from behind to win that game. So, and everybody knows how hard it is to go to Chipola. And Chipola was sitting in that second place seed pretty solidly, and Pensacola went over there. But, that leads us into our game Wednesday night. We're going to play Chipola here. And if we look at Chipola right now, they're 16-6 overall, 4-3 in the panel conference, ranked number 5 state coaches poll, and still receiving votes in that NJCAA national poll. So, so what do you expect Wednesday night, Coach?
I expect another great effort from our men. the men that had the flu, those guys, they're back in class this morning. It's Monday morning. But you can tell just by looking at them, they're not 100%. So I would expect us to be able to give some breaks to some men that we were not able to give last Wednesday night. I still don't know that our rotation will be a full rotation, but maybe that's a good thing. Years ago, 15, 18 years ago, in John Wooden's book, They Call Me Coach, and I enjoy reading. I usually can remember stuff fairly well, not everything, but I remember he said that he had 7 or 8 man rotation, and he made guys fight like crazy until about a week before the first game, and then he settled on a rotation. At the point that he settled on a rotation, of those guys he was going to play, it was hard as can be for anybody to get into that rotation, and it was very, very hard for anybody to work their way out of the rotation. And that kind of came to mind after our game Wednesday night. If guys work hard and they have a good attitude, we do play a lot of guys compared to a lot of teams. We'll go 9, 10, sometimes 11 deep in the season. And so, maybe we play a few less players, get several guys that are our best players more minutes, the guys that are, and condense that playing time down a little bit, and then maybe in the long run that'll help us.
And so, and we'll play that. When we played them the first time at their place, we lost 81-69, 36-28 at half, and then 45-41 in the second half. So the Commodores, played well there. Will Robertson with 25. Quadre Smith had a good game with 18. And like you said, if you had, I believe if we had another player or two at Pensacola, we'd have won that game.
I agree with you. We very well could have won last Wednesday. In our previous game against Chipola, it was a tough battle. Both teams went at it, and so I think and expect us to go at it again. As you alluded to, they did have an opportunity Saturday to really create some separation to where they had solidified that second spot almost. Northwest Florida State has solidified themselves as they're gonna win the league. At this point, might not go undefeated, but they're going to win the league. But they didn't. But that's, if somebody watches this and questions these coaches, it's a weird time, in our country and in sports. Duke goes to St. John's, who's 0-11 in the Big East, and Duke loses in the Garden last weekend. Kansas State, Bruce Weber's a great coach and a great man. Kansas State loses by like 36 or something at West Virginia. It is a difficult and odd time to be trying to get young people to come and bring their A game and to compete and play at a high level regularly. And so Chipola is no different. We're no different. Pensacola's no different. Tallahassee's no different. It's a difficult thing to do unless you're just so overwhelmingly talented, that you can do that, not have to be on your A game and still win games. So they'll be ready for us Wednesday night, and we're going to be ready for them. It's a good rivalry game. I know that the people up there like to beat Gulf Coast, and the people down here, we like to beat Chipola. Good news is that the relationships amongst coaches, athletic administration, so those relationships I know about at the institutions are better than they've been in the last couple of decades. We have strong, healthy relationships amongst the coaches. So good rivalry game, and I'm ready for us to get back to our winning ways.
And so, and Chipola would be a great victory for the Commodores to pick up one. And then after that, then you get to face Tallahassee Community College Saturday night here. And let's talk a little bit about that game.
TCC, they're an explosive team. When we played at their place a couple of weeks ago, we were right there, battling. And then 6 or 7 minutes to go in the game, they blew it open on us. Again, somewhat the same way at Pensacola the other night. We just really have trouble putting the ball in the hoop sometimes, making some shots that we should make, making some turnovers we shouldn't make, some things like that happening. And so we have some empty possessions, and we're working on that, trying to get better at that, of course. And so when we play Tallahassee Saturday night, we will want to compete. And then at the end, we want to play solid, good basketball, take care of the ball, get out and run a few of their shooters off the line that made a couple threes that created the separation last time. And then we'll want to, jump up there, stick the ball in the hoop, and finish some plays strong. Good week for us, big week. And like I said, both games, we want to go out and just play our hearts out, give everything we got for Gulf Coast, and get back to winning.
And if we quickly look at the Panhandle Conference right now, Northwest Florida State College 8-0, Chipola 4-3, Pensacola State 3-4, Tallahassee is 2-5, and Gulf Coast is 1-6. Like you said, Northwest Florida probably got a good shot of winning the Panhandle Conference. I think he may have a good shot of going undefeated in the Panhandle Conference, but because they're just so talented. But everybody else is trying to fight for that second place berth because only 2 teams are going to move on to Ocala.
That's a good point. Everybody's competing and fighting. Whether you have 6 guys or you have 10 guys out there, you're playing as hard as you can. We proved that last Wednesday. I guess with one more defeat, if Chipola loses one more time to anybody, then that wraps it up. Northwest Florida State will be conference champions again this year. So, the rest of us, we're trying to get back to winning ways, and then maybe some things happen and maybe some things could fall our way at the end possibly. But, I know that Chipola and Pensacola are right there. Pensacola's rooting for us heavy on Wednesday night so that they have a chance to catch back up. And then Tallahassee, they're sitting there going to play Pensacola, and they're trying to get a win too. So it's always interesting. When you lose a couple, boy, it can wear you out and everything. But we still have 5 games left, and just boom, that quickly it can change, and all of a sudden those balls are going through the hoop, and all of a sudden that pass did get through, and all of a sudden that 3-pointer rimmed out that the other team shoots. So we're going to keep working, and hopefully things will start rolling our way. And
you got to realize somebody else could have the flu going through their team.
Hey,
you never know.
I hate to sound vain, but hey, I don't have any control over the flu, right?
And the flu's going around Commodore's place, and and that's basketball because an injury, something that happens out of the blue, always can affect a team. So
no doubt.
But the best thing Commodore fans can do is come Wednesday night, Saturday night, watch 2 great games for the men's side, 2 great games for the women's side. So if the Commodore fans will come and fill the building, Wednesday night Chipola fans are coming.
Yeah.
And then if they'll come on Saturday night and support and see if we can pick up 2 wins this game or this week would be big for the Commodores.
That's right. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to coaching these guys. They've been a good group to coach overall, and so I'm looking forward to trying to finish really, really strong right here.
So for Coach Jay Powell, I'm James Baxley. Thanks for watching, Commodore fans, and we'll see you next time on the Commodore Sports Network.
This has been Coach's Corner with your host, James Baxley.